Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into India's high-stakes entrance exams. You know, it's a system that's supposed to pave the way to a golden future, but for so many, it's become a journey to the absolute edge.
And we have to start here with these heartbreaking words. They were left in a note by a young student in Kota, a city known as India's coaching capital. And really, this one sentence, it just says it all. It captures this entire crisis of immense pressure and, well, shattered hopes. 124. That's the number of student suicides in Kota since just 2015. And look, this is so much more than just a statistic, right? We're talking about 124 young lives. Every single one of them was a student who came to this city with a dream, only to have it all cut tragically short.
So to really get a handle on the human cost here, beyond the numbers, let's look at what the source material tells us about two students in particular, Bharat and Abhishek.
So you have Bharat, just 20 years old, preparing for his third try at the medical exam. He was found only 5 days before he was supposed to sit for it. And then there's Abhishek. He was only 16. He just finished his engineering exams, even called his dad to say he was coming home. The thing is, both of them were so far from their families. Both were under this incredible burden of expectation. And their stories, they really shine a light on a system that is just at its breaking point.
Okay, so you have to ask, where is all this pressure coming from? Well, it all starts with the numbers. And believe me, the numbers that fuel this whole system are just staggering.
I mean, the scale of competition here is absolutely astronomical. Let's break it down. For the medical exam NEET, you've got 2.5 million applicants going for about 55,000 government seats. And for the engineering exam JEE, it's 1.2 million people fighting for just 17,000 spots in the top-tier ITs. It's just wild. We're talking millions of hopefuls for a tiny, tiny fraction of spots. And this chart, wow, it really just lays out the brutal reality. Your probability of actually getting one of those top-tier government seats, it's just 2%. Just let that sink in for a second. For every 100 students who pour years of their life and often their family's entire savings into this dream, 98 of them are basically told, sorry, you failed. You can just imagine the sense of personal and financial loss for the vast, vast majority. So the big question is, right, if the odds are that bad, why does this national obsession keep going? I mean, it doesn't seem logical. Well, the source material suggests the answer comes down to 3 really powerful and very human psychological drivers. Okay, first up is our deep-seated need for certainty. These exams offer what looks like a clear, simple path. You get good marks, you get into a top college, and boom, you have a settled life. Then you've got the race for status. In society, doctors and engineers are put on this pedestal, right? They're seen as the ultimate symbols of success. And then there's this weird psychological quirk, the allure of scarcity. The very fact that only 2% make it, well, that makes the prize seem even more valuable. It creates this powerful feedback loop of obsession. And all of this leads to what the source calls a herd mentality. This quote really hits the nail on the head. It suggests that maybe only a tiny percentage of students are actually doing this for themselves, for the nation. The rest, they're just following the herd. They're on a path laid out by society, often pushed by their families who genuinely believe this is the only way to succeed. Now, whenever you have this kind of collective obsession, someone is going to figure out how to make money from it. And that's exactly what happened. It created the perfect storm for a massive and sometimes ruthless billion-dollar industry to just explode. And the epicenter of it all was one city, Kota. So let's go back a bit. In the 80s, Kota was actually a city in financial trouble. But then this one engineer, V.K. Bansal, who was confined to a wheelchair, he started tutoring a few students from his home. And his success was, well, it was phenomenal. So in 1991, he started Bansal Classes. That was the spark. Fast forward to the 2010s, and suddenly these huge national coaching companies descend on the city, starting what they called coaching wars, poaching the best teachers for crazy amounts of money. And today, it's a 10,000 crore industry. That's about 1.2 times $1 billion every year. But, as you can imagine, with that much money and competition on the line, things can get ugly. The source points out that this laser focus on profits has led to some pretty unethical practices. And it's all designed to do one thing: create an illusion of success, to pull in more and more students. And this right here is a perfect example of what we're talking about. It's the topper for sale phenomenon. The highest ranking students, the toppers, they're basically a commodity. Once the results are out, different coaching centers will literally pay a single student to have their face on a banner, with each one claiming this topper studied of us. It paints this incredibly powerful but totally misleading picture of how successful they are.
So, okay, the problem is huge. It's systemic, it's tangled up in society and economics. So, what can be done? Well, the source material argues that real change has to start with the people who are right at the center of it all. Let's look at what it suggests.
All right, first, a message for parents. The source really urges them to ask one fundamental question before they pour everything they have into this. Is this really your child's dream, or is it yours? It's about looking at 98% failure rate square in the eye and accepting it, and realizing that maybe the best investment isn't in coaching fees, but in supporting your kid's genuine passion, no matter what it is. And above all else, just talk to them. Keep those lines of communication wide open.
And what about the teachers? Well, the source calls on them to be more than just cogs in the machine. It's about being honest guides. Stop funneling everyone down the same two paths, doctor or engineer, and start sparking curiosity about all the other careers out there. And maybe, just maybe, question that relentless "you can do it" motivational speech. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can give a student is honest feedback about their real strengths, not just selling them a dream that might not be right for them. And finally, this is for the students who are right in the middle of this pressure cooker. The message is simple, but it's so important. One exam does not define your life. Your life is going to be this long, amazing journey, maybe 50+ years. It's not just this one single moment. You know, this idea that you just clear one exam and then life gets easy, it's a myth that just doesn't exist. The real goal is to find a struggle, a challenge that you actually care about, and then build your strength by tackling that. And that really brings us to the final thought the source leaves us with. In a society that is so obsessed with ranks, with scores, with getting into that top 2%, maybe it's time for all of us to take a step back and to ask ourselves a really fundamental question. What is the true measure of a successful life? Is it just a rank on an exam, or is it something else entirely?